Right, guys, Arsenal have lost the opening leg against PSG, but there's so much more at play when it comes to this. These are two fantastically put together teams, and one team has got a little bit extra. And that's what I want to break down in this video because this goal is just outrageous and there's so much at play, and I'm going to go through all of it. And Fabian Ruiz is someone that I'm absolutely obsessed with when it comes to this goal. And a lot of people will want to talk about the incredible pass that goes all the way through, and we'll talk about that as well. Because when I explain what is going on here, I don't think you'll watch football the same, honestly, because I'm not watching football the same. I'm going to go right to the back to the start of this goal. But first of all, let's talk about the game because it was tight, wasn't it? And I think it almost felt a little bit eerie in terms of how a lot of people were kind of feeling about the game. What I want to go to is talk about this. Now, this is the team if Thomas Partey doesn't get that booking. And I think it's a very, very different game if that is the case. Because Declan Rice, who I thought had some outstanding moments, in particular, there's a moment in the second half where his body shape is just fantastic in terms of picking the ball up from a six and then driving and driving and driving. And it leads to Trossard having probably the best chance that Arsenal have in the game. And Donnarumma pulls out an absolute worldie of a save. And I'm going to break down the game, of course, but I think it is worth talking about the fact that it was fine margins. I thought Wayne Rooney made a really good point in the sense that he spoke about, I'm just trying to get to me here, the point that he said it was about the sort of fine details of the game. And as the game progressed, I think Arsenal both sort of got to grips with PSG. Both teams, from a pressing point of view, but also being able to get out of the press, I thought were very impressive. Thank you. But Arsenal just were lacking that little bit of freedom and spark. And also, I think, the ability to have a bit more of a central threat. And part of that came down to the tactics of the game and the inability to have Thomas Partey in this side. Because if you were able to have Thomas Partey in this side, you would allow Merino to be higher up the pitch. There was a moment, I think it was about 49th minute, something like that. It was, 44th minute. And Mourinho actually ends up having the ball here because he's playing in a different position. He's playing in midfield and Trossard's a little bit higher up. And what he ends up doing is just playing a simple little pass out to Saka, actually, who sort of made his way over to this side, instead of just putting a ball into the box. And that central presence was something that was really, really lacking for Arsenal in this game, in my opinion. But let's talk about the setup, because with Thomas Partey in this team, you can allow for Declan Rice to do a lot more running, be a bit more aggressive, a bit more, have freedom himself to sort of bend the game to his will. And he wanted to do that, and I thought Declan Rice was great in this game. But when you see the way that it changes when you have Merino deeper and you have Trossard a little bit higher up, I thought there was a huge problem in both the areas for both these players. First of all, the press. I thought the press really, really struggled. Odegaard with Havertz would have been so much stronger, of course. But with Merino, I think it would have been stronger as well because you would have had Declan Rice and Thomas Partey in this second, in that double pivot. But to have Merino, from a defensive point of view, in transition against a team that plays the way that PSG play, it was something that they couldn't really deal with. So as we move it on here, this is the thing that I thought was really, really interesting with PSG. Dembele was constantly dropping. Now, if you think about the Real Madrid game and centre forward in that game, Kylian Mbappe, he was sort of peeling out wide here, and it wasn't really affecting the game in any way. But what you're seeing here from this PSG side, and we've done a whole video about it, is this team is playing with relationism ideas. And the goal is just the perfect example of it. And, to go back to that moment here, when Dembele drops, does Saliba go with him? Does Kivior go with him? The sort of stretching and the displacement of what is a world-class Arsenal defence. That's why this game, for me, was of such a high level. But what occurred here a lot of the time was because of the fluidity of this team, but in particular, I can't stop thinking about what Jamie Hamilton talks about. Go search Jamie Hamilton, because he's got an incredible article on relationism. He speaks about relationism, and what he talks about is the combinations with each other instead of the space. And with Dembele, as you would have seen it several times in this game, what PSG did brilliantly, in my opinion, was Dembele had that freedom to drop, and actually just be too close to each other. And when you're too close to each other, it's because you're kind of combining with each other. And there are patterns at play that led to them being able to sort of squeeze this Arsenal team and get them to go away from their block, but also kind of create a four around them a lot of the time. This is sort of one example of it. You can see it here of four players by having those little combinations and movements, but also another word that Jamie's been using recently is diagonality, or another word that comes from the article. I'll put a link in the description, but I'm going to put the whole podcast out that I've done on the Ripple Effect with Jamie, talking about diagonality in terms of escadillas. Now, escadillas, it basically means like stairway, and you can see it in the goal. We saw two things at play here: the escadilla and the courtelousse. Now, the courtelousse is essentially like a dummy, and the phrasing of it is lights out, cutting the lights on the defender. Now, if you think about what happened for the goal, let's go to the goal now. What you saw was players not playing in spaces that they're supposed to be in, but combining with each other. So this is 2 minutes. I'm going to put it right here. 2 minutes 26. Hang on, this is a better way of doing it. 2 minutes 26. And what you could see here is just lots of players coming to the ball, combining with each other, instead of being in that normal set way that a lot of teams are. And it made it really difficult for Arsenal in this game. And this is obviously 2 minutes into the game. There's a lot of talk about some comments that they saw Declan Rice saying, talking about, if we lose the ball, we die. And that intensity against a team that can handle that intensity, because they've got ideas and flow and combinations with each other. That's why Desiree Doué played in this game. That's why he started, because they wanted that kind of guy to help bring in those solutions. And as we break down this goal, what you'll see is a lot of the different principles in my very novice mind of things like tilting, which is keeping the ball on one side and going back. Let me show you that for an example. But also, if you think of the way that Arsenal look to play and look to have their block 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you're looking for that second four. Now the second four all of a sudden is not, it's not awful, but it's not as together as often Arsenal can be. And as this goal unfurls, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, because what PSG do is they could, like most teams, come out and recycle. And Vitinha, who constantly comes to the ball and constantly goes to the ball, almost too close to the ball. A lot of people would have a go at that. In this moment here, he's got the ball. The obvious pass is make your way out and we'll go around. That's what a lot of teams do. PSG go back in. You go back into that side. And again, Dembele, he's dropped really deep here. The centre-backs are kind of redundant here. You're overloading these two in midfield. You're making life really, really difficult for them. And also, you're kind of sucking in the whole Arsenal team into a very tight area of the pitch. But Arsenal will feel like they're completely in control of this situation. But actually, it was PSG not toying with them, but displacing them in a way that they weren't really ready for and creating space. But it's so complicated what they do. It's absolutely outstanding. They come back. They go out again. They keep staying on this side. This time you think they're on their way out. But no, he plays back in. It's absolutely fantastic. And if you think of Real Madrid, that's not what they were doing. And it made it very, very easy for Arsenal to defend against them. And today, if you think of the passes, Arsenal and PSG had about 50% each. I think it was 52 maybe in PSG's favour. But PSG played well over 400 passes. And Arsenal played 390, I think, something like that. And what that says to me is that the interplay between these players. It was short, snappy little passes. Whereas Arsenal, it was just a little bit more deliberate, bit slower, and they sort of had the word that was used in commentary was toiled. They were sort of toiling side to side, side to side. To get back to this goal, because it's outstanding stuff, they go back in, and again, should they come out by now? They probably should have. And if we go back right to the start of it, the other crucial thing is this right here. Kvaratskhelia. Can you see him here? Right down the bottom of your screen here. He means that the back line stays as high and as far back as it does. Because although Dembele is coming to get involved, you're still having someone making life a little bit difficult by pinning them. So as we move it along, time and again, they keep going back to that side. And the idea is to tilt and to have all these players on one side so you then create space for yourself. What's really interesting as well is that once the ball gets played backwards, which it does here, here, it gets played backwards. Now, all of a sudden, Arsenal think they're in business here. They've played all this play over on this right-hand side of the pitch for PSG, and now finally you've seen a backward pass. That feels like a bit of a trigger for a team that is ready to attack, and they want to. And so the ball makes its way over to this side, and now the person that I really want you to look at now is Fabian Ruiz. This is outstanding. Now you would think, okay, he's making his way back to the ball. But now all of a sudden he moves wider. Why is he moving wider? The reason he's moving wider is to create this space. But the other thing that's crucial in all of this, of course, is, first of all, Vitinha. But second of all, when we're talking about that diagonality, really hard word to say, what you're looking for is exactly what I've just said. Diagonal ladders. So 1 and 2 on this occasion. They do it all the time in several different areas of the pitch. There's one moment with Desiree Doué, he went for a run, but prior to that, the ball actually went past him. But you have these ladders here, but also the Courtelouze. And the Courtelouze is a dummy. So what you all saw transpire here is the lights got cut out. And Merino, who's normally, and has been for the last 2 months, playing up top and not having to put this kind of effort in, and is maybe just not great at this role, whereas Declan Rice is a lot better, the lights get cut out on him completely as it moves forward. And then all of a sudden, there's all this space. Now, why is there all this space? There's all this space because of Ruiz initially coming to the ball and taking Declan Rice away from him. You've played a pass and you've cut out 1, 2, and Saka, who thought, again, they were going to be able to press. And there's all this space now for Dembele, the striker who you thought should be staying up top. And if you think of Real Madrid, would Real Madrid be playing in this fashion? No. Would Mbappe drop into this area? No. But this is what this team's doing. This is how high level they are. And the fact that Arsenal absolutely still in this tie, for me, is a huge positive. I think there's actually lots of positives here because I think Arsenal can score goals against this lot. Set pieces. It might feel a little bit ugly, but I think you knew the style and the sexiness is going to come from PSG. And sort of, the team, the functionality, and all those other elements would be there for Arsenal. But from here, now Dembele's got the ball and he's able to drive. So much space for him to drive into. But watch Fabian Ruiz once again. He takes a little look over his shoulder. This is outstanding football, guys. And so from this position where you've taken Declan Rice out of this 6th position, you've taken Merino out of his position, there's all this space for Dembele to drive. Saliba, who I thought was outstanding as well, actually, despite this moment, it's a tough one. Do you go? Because also, this is the other thing, incredible dribblers everywhere. Incredible dribbler. Hakimi, incredible dribbler. And with that kind of space, it's so, he can't. He has to retreat. And so what's Fabian Ruiz doing here? And why is he looking over his shoulder? Well, again, he's thinking about his movement and his use of the half space and how he can affect the game and allow Kvaratskhelia to get the ball. And so he has a look. There's no need for him to look over his shoulder. If he was looking to score himself, he's facilitating for the team. And he drives. But he doesn't drive here, he drives there. And by driving there, what does it do? Once again, it's these double movements. It's these clever movements that you think you're doing the right thing. You think we're all okay. You're not all okay. You're really not, because now one of the best players in the world has got the ball. I want to get to the point about Declan Rice as well. Here's another angle of it as well. It's from that starting point, creating that space, almost now from the opposite of stretching, then squeezing. Games breathe, and great teams get the opposition to move, get them to be displaced. This is the thing I wanted to talk about with Declan Rice. Declan Rice getting a little bit of heat. I think that was scrabbling here. I think Declan Rice is undone here, and I think he's let down by Merino, if I'm honest. I think Merino... So we've got Declan Rice here. Declan Rice has a really quick look. I was only just about able to get it. And what I think he sees is, first of all, he sees trouble here. He sees the fact that Miles Lewis-Skelly, who again I thought had a really solid game, is a player who is one-on-one with one of the best players in the world. Like, can I go and help? That's what Declan Rice is trying to do for this 17-year-old lad. So when he has a little look, he sees who? He sees Merino on his way back, and actually out of shot, he sees Saka on his way back as well. And he thinks one of them will come and help. So he then makes a snap decision, which I don't think is the worst decision, to go and help. And as he comes over, to be honest, he's not done a lot wrong. The other thing that I don't think anyone's spoken about, the ref gets in the way of Bukayo Saka. And the ref is awful. This is why, actually common sense is important with the Trossard one. Because if you watch it in isolation, you kind of go, oh, okay, I get it, it's a booking. That's how I kind of thought about it. But when it's that moment in the game and the ball goes out, just chill out. And he had a rod for his own back there. And here, actually, he gets in the way of the ball. Merino as well, come and solve it. Come and fix it. Get yourself over here. And Declan Rice, in the moment, has made that decision. I don't think it was that bad of a decision. Final thing to say, of course, outrageous finish and probably a little bit of luck as well when you've got so many bodies you've got to get through. But the starting point for all of this was a team that is happy to combine. Happy to combine in tight areas. This is not a team that plays simple, just positional football. It's just not. It's a team that goes and combines with each other, that has dribblers in the team. Now, football's not that simple. Arsenal are absolutely in this game. Absolutely in this game. And I thought there were lots of positives for them. But this PSG team is pretty sensational. I thought that the other thing I thought was really, really cool as well, if I'm honest, is that width is retained. That overload in the middle comes as well. And in terms of the two lines of the pitch, this second line, because Pacho's always back here, there's always this second line. And against the two looking to press in Odegaard and Trossard, Vitinha, who's just outstanding, he's always available to go. And even if they get close to him, there was one moment where Trossard was here, Odegaard was kind of here, I think. Vitinha just sort of pointed, put it there. He was in the middle. He went, it's all right, just point it there. Put it there. And he did, and then they're away again. PSG were better. They managed the game. It was tight, and these games will be tight because Arsenal are a really, really good side. But I can't help but go back to that. And Thomas Partey not being available for this game, I think it could have been very, very, very different. Lots to talk about Odegaard struggling. I think it's fair. I think it's a fair critique. I think he's struggling on the ball. For him, if he's going to be the guy, yes, the press is crucial, and it's been, an attacking weapon for Arsenal all season long for the last couple of years. But on the ball, he has to be braver. He has to be braver. But again, I think this comes back to the video that we've done about the last 5 years of Arteta, looking at how it's slowly evolved. I think they're at a place now where they have 3 options. They don't have infinite options. And they don't have that flow state to go and feel out the game, aside from maybe Bukayo Saka. I think that's where we're at with this team. I think Declan Rice is a big game player. Saliba, big game player. Kivior did okay. Lewis Skelly, good God, he's a big game player. Did brilliantly, I thought. But overall, you're being let down by 1 or 2 against, I'm struggling not to say, the best team in the competition, in my opinion. Because even when you do make your way through, Donnarumma's making big saves. Pacho's, I think, been really impressive. Marquinhos, you know what you're going to get. Hakimi as well. You talk about that width that's created at times. That's the other side of it. It really is a hybrid. It's an incredible team. And Arsenal are a really good team. And I said this after the Real Madrid game. I said, they're so hard to beat. No, what did I say? I said they don't always win, but they're so hard to beat. That is Arsenal. And on the right day, if it all comes together, Arsenal can beat Paris Saint-Germain. It is only 1-0. And the Barcola miss at the end of it, at the end of the game, honestly, I think that could be something that they could rue. Arsenal could absolutely get to the Champions League final, guys. Like, I think it was interesting, the sort of belief kind of went a little bit, but I also think that, like, you know, to lose a goal 3 minutes in, you're not able to create that sort of head of steam to get the crowd going. And then, of course, the disallowed goal as well. But in that disallowed goal, that shows you there are goals for you. Like, what could be considered cheap goals, set pieces, as opposed to something from some fleeting move from open play. It's not over. It's cup football. Arsenal are really good, but PSG are also incredibly good. Final thing I thought was interesting is PSG made 25 tackles. Arsenal only made 12. Was that, is that a change in strategy that was needed there? I think I just wanted to highlight that. First of all, actually, Arsenal were quite good at getting out of the press and found their way over to that left-hand side. I think in possession, Arsenal were trying to have that overload on that left-hand side with Trossard, Marino, and Declan Rice making his way over there a little bit as well, but Martinelli as well, trying to get at them that way and maybe get themselves those set pieces to give yourself the best chance of winning the game. But that Thomas pass, that is honestly the ripple effect of that. I know it's my podcast, but it's a fair phrase to use, yeah. I think it cannot be underestimated. And thus, with him back in the team, they've got a chance. What do you think? Let me know. Go check out the Arteta video, by the way. We worked really hard on it, and there's data from the last 5 years. Cheers.